viewers a sense for how often he has to work? Sure. I mean, just, you know, without getting into specifics of cases or whatever, but how often does Zip have to do his thing?
Well, I just compiled my statistics for last year, okay. And we deployed 147 times last year.
Okay.
And a canine deployment is anytime he gets out of the car to work.
Wow.
And I mean, I've had him out of the car as many as 5 times a night, and I've gone for a couple of days when I don't use him. I use him if a business alarm goes off. If we get you know, an alarm from a building, I get the dog out of the car and I walk the perimeter. In the event that somebody has left some human scent behind, he's going to find that before I will. So I use him. We use him a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot more than I expected, actually.
Yeah, he's 147 deployments in 1 year. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Garrett, I'm going to turn to you to talk about a little bit about your background before you got to Londonderry. You mentioned that you were working for the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department. What were you doing for them? Where were you located, et cetera?
I was assigned to the Manchester airport.
Okay.
And so when they decided that they weren't going to, renew their contract with them, I got my job here.
Yeah.
So I worked there for 2.5 years.
Okay.
Like I said.
Okay. But now you patrol. You don't work at the airport for us right now. You have a regular patrol shift in town.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But because we have this contract, and a lot of folks I know are interested in that, they asked a lot of questions when we were going through this with the council and the budget committee, kind of asking all the questions we typically would ask about how this was going to work. And we've talked to the airport director and asked him, how's it going? And they're very happy with it. Can you explain to the folks what patrolling the airport is like, just to give a perspective? Even though you were with Rockingham, it would kind of help us.
Right. I patrolled there when I first got hired in Londonderry.
Okay.
I was there for about 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Before I came down to town. And we rotate through there as well. And actually, my next shift bid, I'll be going back up there for 3 months.
Okay.
So it's definitely. It's a change.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different type of police work. It's more community relations.
Yeah.
Where's this? Where's that?
Yeah.
Type of work. But we get called upon by TSA.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
How
about the whole airport security aspect? I mean, obviously, John mentioned the 9/11, and everything changed for all of us then. What's the police department's role in that at the airport?
It's huge. It's being out there. It's being present and just having everybody see you. And it's also being alert all the time. And just keeping your eye out. For anything. It could be terrorist related. It could be be anything. Drug trafficking.
Right.
You're just keeping your eye out for any type of suspicious activity. And it's pretty much the same as patrolling down here. It's just you're not in a car. You're walking around the airport terminal.
And that's 3 shifts round the clock, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's 24/7 police operation out there, right? So now that you kind of left the Rockingham and came with Londonderry, and you're doing some patrol work in town, do you see any differences between a county type of operation and a town operation? Is there anything different at all about that, or is police work police work?
No, there's definitely a big difference between the two. Each sheriff's department is set up different. The sheriff's department that I work for, Rockingham County, they're responsible for transporting prisoners, delivering civil paperwork, and court security. They don't have a patrol function, at least in Rockingham. They don't. Some sheriff's departments, they'll go on call when the small towns that don't have police
they
force,
cover small towns. Yeah.
Rockingham doesn't do that. They do dispatch for a lot of the smaller towns in Rockingham County.
Yeah.
But as far as a patrol aspect, that's.
Oh, I'm glad I asked that question. So let's talk about. What patrolling in Londonderry is like. And what I mean by that is what is it about Londonderry that makes patrolling either challenging or good from the perspective of other towns? We can talk about, our location. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. We obviously have 93, and we've got 2 exits versus most towns don't have 2. We've got a park and ride facility that's a state facility, but I know that we get called there and patrol that, as Budget Committee's always after the state about that type of thing. And we also have a north-south and an east-west state road system. So people are going through Londonderry constantly. So let's talk about that. What's patrolling Londonderry like because of those factors?
Well, there is a huge transient population that moves through this town on any given day.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it does fluctuate, you know, during the business week and maybe slack off a little bit on the weekend. But you're right, we've got a lot of interstate in this town, and we do have Route 102. We border the largest city in the state.
Yeah.
And a lot of things and a lot of people pass through this town.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of our job. I mean, we respond to a huge number of accidents because of the amount of motor vehicle traffic here. Huge number of accidents.
Yeah.
Even under the best conditions, when the weather's fine, we usually go to at least 1 or 2 accidents
We're
a
going
day.
to talk about weather too, but
at least. But yeah, I mean, there's a huge transient population that goes through this town.
Yeah.
And it keeps us busy.
Yeah.
You know, it really does.
Yeah. How about, I mean, we mentioned the airport, and we obviously know the story of the Manchester airport going from Grenier Field to what it is today, which is one of the fastest growing regional airports in the country. And I live off of High Range Road, and I know that that's one of the nice ways to get to the airport. You just go north on High Range and you run right into the runway, okay? So the transient population is not just the major roads.
No.
So how about the impact on the side roads like High Range and Litchfield and all those other roads? How does that affect us?
Well, there's plenty of work to be done. I mean, if High Range Road is in your patrol sector, your assigned sector for your shift, if you're not answering calls for service, you could go out there and do proactive motor vehicle enforcement for hours on end and not be bored. I mean, it pretty much, maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning it's going to slack off a little bit, but I mean, the traffic is not just restricted to the main north, south, east, west roads. I mean, High Range Road is very busy. I mean, they just recently lowered the speed limit because of the amount of traffic that was on that road.
Yeah.
So it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It truly is everywhere.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody comes through Londonderry at one point in time to get somewhere.
Exactly. All right, so let's talk about, you know, without getting into any kind of, you know, gory details at all, but let's say you guys are out on patrol and you get called to a somewhat serious accident in your area. What is a patrol, you get the call, and then kind of take us through what takes place as a patrol officer when that happens. Garrett, why don't we start with you?
Well, our first function when we arrive at an accident scene is to protect the scene and first and foremost make sure that it doesn't get any worse. Okay. You know, this is the last thing you need is to have another accident.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, our main function. And we are, you know, certified, you know, in CPR and some basic first aid. But for the most part, our main function is to protect that scene. Okay. And usually, the Londonderry Fire Department is very quick to get there, and most oftentimes we'll be arriving at the same time, which is always nice. Their response time is really quick as well.
So let's assume, you know, for the sake of the show, that the accident unfortunately is in the road, so it's creating this situation that you're talking about, and you get there and fire department's there and they're doing their thing. What happens? How do you lay this out? How do you work this scene?
Well, I mean, like I work with John right now 2 days a week, and pretty much it goes without saying that I arrive on scene. If it was my initial call, I'm gonna, you know, get all the information that I need. I know as soon as he shows up, he's gonna start directing traffic. Yeah. You know, he's gonna protect that and let me do my work. Okay. And then I'll let him know what I need. You know, once the tow truck gets here, everything like that. We have a pretty good understanding with the guys that we work with that, you know, we know how everybody works, and you know what your role is. Yeah. And so you don't have to, you know, hey John, he already knows what he's going to do, and I already know what I have to do. Right. You know, if the roles were reversed. So
let's say fortunately for the folks who are involved, they're being taken care of by the fire department, the medics that work for them, and you don't have to fortunately deal with that. Do you have to take information from the parties if they're able to give it to you, make sure the vehicles are moved? What happens after that in terms of doing reports and things like that? Give us that side of the job.
Well, generally speaking, when you go to an accident, the first thing is personal injury. Right. If there's no serious personal injury what I try to do is get the road cleared as quickly as possible.
Because of what we're talking about.
I take a mental picture if I have to. If I have a camera, of course, I'll take a picture. But I'm going to need to do a sketch at some point in time. But I got to get that road clear as quickly